All right, Nico, can you say, welcome to another episode of Healthy Births, Happy Babies?
It's a happy episode. Happy babies.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Healthy Births, Happy Babies. I'm Dr. Jay Warren. I am your host, as well as being a prenatal and pediatric chiropractor here in San Diego. In today's episode, I'm going to have a conversation with a fellow like-minded doctor that sees a lot of brand new families. And we're going to talk about building a tribe and creating a tribe as you're starting your new family. Recently, I did an episode around creating a birth team, and that aspect of team was really more focused on pregnancy, on the birth, maybe in that initial postpartum period. But what I'm going to talk about today with Dr. Peter Kevorkian, my guest, is around a tribe, a community, a group of people around you that are like-minded, that you can use as a resource to learn more information, but then also as a support as you're going through your parenthood journey. And we're going to talk about not only how important that is, but how to go about doing that. So I'm going to switch over to our conversation briefly, or in a second. I'm going to have you listen to this brief message, and then I'll come back, introduce Dr. Peter to you, and then we'll get right into the episode, okay? My online course, Connecting with Baby During Pregnancy, has been out for a while now, and I've been getting phenomenal feedback from you women who have been learning these prenatal bonding techniques, putting them to use, and having amazing results. The same kind of results that the women in the Rafi study were getting, where by doing these techniques throughout pregnancy, they were having less anxiety and pain during labor. They're needing less obstetrical interventions, including less C-sections. And then afterwards, the babies are sleeping better, which means you're sleeping better. And postpartum depression was less than 1% in the moms who did these techniques. So go over to my website at drjwarren.com/CWB and learn all about it. I think this course is amazing. I put a lot of effort into it, and I think it'll really help you have a healthier, happier, and more relaxed pregnancy and a gentler yet powerful birth. All right, so my guest today is Dr. Peter Kevorkian. He's an international speaker, instructor, as well as the president of the board of directors for the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, the ICPA. For over 25 years, Dr. Peter and his wife, Dr. Patty, have practiced together in a very special home office space in Westwood, Massachusetts, serving pregnant women and new families. They have two children of their own, Katie and Christopher, who are born both at home, and he's here to share with us how to create a tribe, a group of like-minded parents and families that are going to support you on your parenting journey. So with no further ado, let me switch over to my conversation with Dr. Peter. All right, Dr. Peter, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here, Jay.
All right. I am excited about this topic because it's something that new parents are desperately needing, or maybe they don't even know they need it, but they're could really benefit by it. And that's having a tribe around them, a group of like-minded people, other families, practitioners that are going to support them in the ways they want to grow their families. And so that is something that I know you're very immersed in. You teach many doctors all over around the world and people in your own community this. So I want to just thank you right from the get-go of being here and sharing this message.
Awesome. Yeah. Dr. J, you couldn't have said it better. It doesn't help to be an island. And, when you have a child, particularly the first time, there's so many things you don't know. And there's so many things that we tend to default to supposed cultural authority, to what doctors tell us to do, or what our moms or our families have always done. And very often, people, I found, I felt this when I first started having kids, we look at things differently. We're basing it on a knowledge and a wisdom of a different age. And very often, particularly today, people want much more alternative, less interventions, taking more responsibility rather than giving up responsibility to a caregiver. I think the healthcare community is really maturing and recognizing that you just don't. Years ago, you just did whatever the doctor told you to do, and people are realizing that doctors are human, and the technology is limited, and very often the things that drives the system is the system itself more than what is the absolute most appropriate thing for a person. So people want to take more responsibility for themselves, and so I think that's awesome. But if you don't have a support system around you, oh my goodness, so much fear can come up for you. And so it's so critical to have a tribe and to build that tribe.
Right. I mean, just as you said, I see it in my office all the time. They're just patients coming in, like they're more informed and they're questioning things more. They're gathering more information. They're not doing just what everybody's always ever done. They might follow through if it's congruent with them, but then you take it to parenting, and their moms are telling them one way, like, well, that's what we did when you were kids and that worked out just fine for you. And that might very well be true, but depending on a person's like one healthcare paradigm, as well as like parenting and style that they want to have, like you might know exactly what you want to do, but a lot of times, especially as a first-time parent, they're learning as you go. At least that's how I was. I thought I knew a lot, but in the trenches, there was a lot that I hadn't figured out.
And we tend to default to the programs and patterns that we grew up with. Unless you take volitional effort to change something, you tend to do and say a lot of the things very unconsciously to your kids. I remember when I was like 5-6 years old, I remember my grandmother said, "Peter, you need to go brush your teeth." And I didn't want to brush my teeth. I was being the stubborn 6-year-old. And she says, "If you don't brush your teeth, you're going to get cavities." And she takes it to the nth degree that if I don't brush my teeth will get cavities, rot, and fall out. And then she pulls out her dentures and smiles, and I see that there are no teeth there. And I wind up, obviously at that point, go brushing my teeth. But that image of my teeth not being there is the picture that I played in my mind every time I brush my teeth. Well, when I had kids, and my daughter was 5-6 years old, and I said, "Katie, you need to go brush your teeth." And she didn't, she was being the stubborn 6-year-old that I was being when I was 6 years old. And she said, "I'm not going to brush my teeth." It's those words started to come out of my mouth the same way that they did for my grandfather. And I stopped and I said, "Oh, I want to create a different story." But to create the different story requires energy, and it requires a different level of consciousness. And very often does not ever happen when we are in states of uncertainty, when we're in states of fear, when we're in states of lack of support. And so I think it's so important for moms, particularly first-time moms, to develop their network, their safety net, I like to call it, of yes, professionals, but also other young moms who think the same. There are a lot of very, very intense, everything from diapering, whether you're going to use cloth diapers or disposable diapers, to, how do you deal with your kids if they have ear infections? Do you do traditional methodologies, or do you try alternative things? To vaccinations, oh my goodness, and that's such a hot topic. Whether you choose to or not choose to, what's the rightness or the wrongness of that? Education, the type of schooling you want. Will you homeschool? Will you send them to an alternative school or public school? And we have our perspectives and our philosophies and our ideologies and our belief systems regarding it, and to be with a tribe that supports that for each of those areas that we engage is so important.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like you had said from the beginning, that like as parents, like shouldn't be an island, but it can be very isolating when you first become a parent, because when you're sleep deprived, you're stressed about keeping this little precious thing alive and wondering about all the sounds they're making, are they breathing and the like. And especially in our culture that's like go, go, go and do, as well as being kind of paint a pretty face on everything. Like if you're struggling as a parent, most people don't want anybody to see that. So they tend to isolate even more when it's the exact opposite time that they need to reach out for support. And having places in the community, or at least knowing that to start searching for them is really important to know during the pregnancy, I think, because when you're in the trenches of the first couple of weeks of having a baby, like you're not thinking in that way.
Although I remember when I held my first born for the first time, it's like, you have no idea what that experience is until you experience it. I mean, a whole new chapter opens within your life. And the biggest thing you realize is how little your parents really do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how little you really know. I was the best parent in the world till I had kids.
Totally. Well, and that's sometimes the default, like even asking my parents, I mean, obviously like being quote in the biz and taking care of new parents and educating them and the like, I do know a lot of information, but I don't know everything. But sometimes I'll be asking my folks about it. I'm like, I don't know. We just kind of figured it out. There wasn't all of these resources. You could Google things at 2 a.m. You're just like trying to get to daylight every day.
Well, sometimes Dr. Google it does nothing to help the situation.
Nothing to help.
There are, we are the first culture that I believe has been over communicated. I think there's way too much that comes at us that we just cannot process.
Right.
And there's a person needs to have a degree of healthy skepticism as they peruse the internet for information, particularly information about what to do. And I think this is a generational issue of the internet coming forth, because we've come to depend upon the internet to provide us with lots of information, a good restaurant to go to how to plan a trip and vacation. But when it gets down to making choices and decisions relative to education, to how to raise your children, to healthcare, what type of treatments are effective or not. Yeah, I think the internet can become extremely confusing to people, and I think it's so important to have, as I said, a support net around you of professionals that you trust, but also a tribe of women or parents that you also can relate to and feel that you can be transparent with, that you feel safe to share your fears, your unknowns, your insecurities, and not feel judged and not feel made wrong. Because there is no absolute rightness. There is none. The only absolute rightness is what a mom and dad believe in their heart and soul is the right thing for their child, their baby. I believe that to the deepest part of my core. I could tell somebody, what I understand from my knowledge and my skill as a chiropractor in terms of the importance of spinal care, the importance of having a healthy and adaptive nervous system. Yet if mom and dad don't perceive that, don't feel that, don't understand that, then it's not the appropriate care for that child. Yes, it is, based on my perspective, but mom and dad need to feel good about whatever things that they are doing, because energetically, I believe that lands on our children. If any time that we do things that are not in alignment with our fundamental core values and beliefs, I believe that becomes detrimental to a human being.
Right. And I just had done an interview with another doc talking about kind of the same thing about creating a team of practitioners around you during pregnancy and birth. It's congruent, so you have the outcomes that you wanted. It's great that we're doing this episode now because it's the same principles, now just looking in a different sense of, yes, healthcare is part of it, but then also as far as like your family and who you're hanging out with and the people that have the same ideals and the same paradigm and the like. And in your own community, there might be specific things, but in general, what would you recommend to a new set of parents that are wanting to find a tribe, or even they had thought about it, but now they see the importance of it, to how do they seek out creating that either for themselves or jumping into one that might be already established? Are there anything generally that you could advise?
Well, the first place that I go, because it's the circle that I live in, I'm involved with the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, and the ICPA does training for chiropractors in family practice, but they also support chiropractors with information to help create tribes like that not an extension of their practice, but sort of within their practice. The Pathways Connect group that was started by the ICPA is a wonderful resource. Pathways Magazine, which is produced by the ICPA, is available in many offices throughout the world, in ICPA offices. And many of the offices that have Pathways Magazine also have a Pathways Connect group, which is a tribe of parents that meet usually monthly, sometimes every other month, sometimes weekly. I mean, there are many different iterations of it, of moms who are looking for alternative ways to raise their kids than just mainstream medical care. And not all of them think exactly the same, but it is a group of people who get together, who share ideas and perspectives and work through things. And some of the most recent issues were not as much even about the kids, because they were pretty clear on what they want to do with their kids, but they were discussing how they communicate with their parents, with the people who don't. The circles that they need to be in, family, friends, or whatnot, their community, where there is a difference in thought. What are the strategies and skills, and in holding a value structure, and how you raise your kids differently than a population that you're immersed in, and having effective communication strategies without anybody feeling judged, anybody feeling hurt, without being alienated, and that's a key component of it. I think many moms and dads I've seen that really decide to make different choices relative to nutrition or healthcare interventions, and whether it's going to a chiropractor or utilizing acupuncturists or Reiki therapists or things of that sort, and the manner in which they communicate that to their parents becomes a challenge. And so that support is definitely needed. So my immediate sense is connect with alternative caregivers that align to you philosophically. The ICPA is an excellent resource. ICPA #4kids.org is a site that you can go to and find chiropractors, and literally anywhere in the world through their referral directory is one place. You just get on the phone and call chiropractors and say, you take care of families. And there are many ways that chiropractors can take care of families. Many parents have used chiropractic care as an effective treatment of conditions. The child has had ear infections or bedwetting or some condition that they just don't want to be using the medications and the traditional treatments for, and they seek going to a chiropractor. Although chiropractors don't really treat any of those conditions, nor do they really prevent them. They really offer an important service to people to allow a child to have healthier spines. And when a person has a healthier spine, their nervous system is healthier. As the nervous system is healthier, the brain and the nervous system is able to control and coordinate the functions of the body better, and the body figures out what it needs to do and gets over many conditions unto itself. That's normal to be healthy. That's the model. So it's really trying to build well-being and vitality rather than trying to treat conditions. So to find clinicians of all sorts, I'm obviously going to say chiropractors because that's the population I live in, but there are all sorts of practitioners that are out there nowadays. There are Reiki therapists, acupuncturists, massage therapists, all who open the door of building vitality rather than just doing things in a therapeutic treatment basis.
Right. And I'll definitely include that link, one to the Pathways Connect groups, and then also to that ICPA site. And I've said this before many times, that listeners from this podcast, they're all over the world, and they'll be interested in something that they learned about, or, they learn about the Prenatal Wellness Center I'm a part of here in San Diego. I'm like, oh, I wish I was in San Diego, but do you know of anybody in whereversville, right, USA? The way that I usually try and find people is I go to that ICPA website. I find a local chiropractor that does similar stuff like I do, because I know they're going to be a hub of finding the craniosacral-therapist, of finding another midwife, or have resources in their office. So having gone through that experience of trying to find people all over the world, not knowing everybody, and not just opening up Google and seeing what comes up first, finding people that are one person that's in the circle that you're very congruent with, you jive with, they like what you're doing, is whether it's a family or a practitioner. Then you ask those people, all right, who else are you using for this and for this? And then you have this network, as you said, of people that will really support you and push you and educate you in the ways that you want to do for your family.
Yeah, very often what I've witnessed is people are very, very well hooked in the prenatal side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Midwives and doulas are there. Those communities actually become very, very strong throughout the country, and becomes an excellent place to start. But after this, you have this baby, and you're holding this baby. That support structure falls apart very quickly, because although they're very, very well hooked into alternative mechanisms and methodologies of caring for yourself through pregnancy, of giving birth, then you have a million other questions, everything, not just on the nursing side, but the raising your kids, arguments. Should I put my kids on their belly? Should I put them on their backs? Do I have them wear shoes? Do I have them go barefoot? Those things. Should I give them tubes in their ears? Should I use vitamin C? What school do I send them to? Do I homeschool them? It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming, those choices and decisions that people are out.
And many parents, especially new parents, are so focused on the pregnancy and the birth, and rightfully so. It's very, very important, of course. But then on the other side of it, they're like, whoa, I had no idea there was so much else that we needed to know about or would be concerned about.
Yeah.
I know in the arc of our wellness center here, we started off very strong prenatal care. We had acupuncture, massage, myself, the chiropractor. We were doing prenatal yoga classes. We had birth education alike, but we totally dropped the ball on postpartum care. Like, we were just that example of taking excellent care in the pregnancy, and then we dropped off. And so the next year, exactly. So that next year we put a lot of programs involved, of like a breastfeeding support group and like postpartum yoga classes and educational things for the moms. And then now this next incarnation I've been talking about, I have a dads group where I'm supporting new dads, because the dads are being left alone. But the more we can find like parents like that.
I feel as though dads have sort of been left off to the sidelines for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly I'm in the Northeast, and they really are. It's like, there's a lot of support given to moms, new moms, and those groups that come together, but dads need just as much support. To really support the family and protect the cave, if you will.
Exactly. And this new generation is, we have, speaking specifically to dads and men, like, we have different expectations placed on us, but without any cultural reference or generational reference to be able to help us through that. So it's a totally new world. And if we feel like we're floundering, meaning dads, then there's going to be less stability in the whole house. And we want to be able to have our families be super strong. And that means everyone in the family being whole and healthy, not just mom and not just baby. And they're important, but dad is too. Just a little plug for the dads. So with those different aspects of, getting involved in the community and having a tribe, like, what are the main aspects you would say are important for a mom and dads too, to start looking for, or questions to ask, or places to go? What would you recommend?
Well, great question. And that really doesn't, in my opinion, have a very, very simple answer. I think the biggest thing that I feel people need is a place to feel very safe.
Mm-hmm.
That they can share their concerns, their fears, not feel judged, and a growth process can occur, and doors can be open, and possibilities can exist. So, in as much as I can say, yes, ask about alternative, what type of professionals might be engaged with it. Are they aligned to you philosophically? I think that's part of it. What kind of support do you want? Is it relative to healthcare? Is it relative to education? Is it relative to building family? Is it relative to spirituality? What dynamics around you are you really looking for support? And then you're not going to make a decision until you actually go there and meet people and feel the touch and get a sense of the environment. Because some groups become very cliquish. It's a group of a few people that get together, and other people come and go, but there's sort of like this clique that stays because they get to know one another. for a brand new mom that may not have that same connection, that can feel very threatening to them. So finding groups that are very open and nurturing. So not a simple answer to that.
No, I understand. And I think that's kind of the basis of it, is that one, it's important to have that tribe, and two, the way is to go seek it, and that it can be found. It's just a matter of going out there and asking questions. And hopefully from this discussion, like you, the listener, has gotten a real feel of like how important a tribe surrounding you is, like not only for your own mental health and well-being, but for the whole family to grow up as supported in the community that you're a part of.
Absolutely. 100%.
So Peter, where can people learn more about like what you're doing, and find more information about yourself, or where can people find you?
If people want to contact me, probably the best way is to contact me directly. It's my name, Dr. Dr. Peter, Peter, Kevorkian, just like Jack, Kevorkian @gmail.com. That's real easy. I'm also on Facebook, Dr. Peter Kevorkian. Easily to message me. Or you can find me through the ICPA, number 4 kids.com or .org, and it will lead you, .com or .org will actually lead you to the same place right now. And you can find me there as either the referral directory or through the instructors. I'm one of the instructors for that program. So that'll be the easiest ways to get in touch with me.
Great. And I'll make sure all those links are there in the show notes for you, so that you can just click on those links, whether you're listening on your phone or on the computer, so you can get right to it. Peter, in our closing moments, like what would you like the takeaway message be from our discussion today? Like something we talked about, or maybe a point we didn't get to that you'd like to communicate to the people listening?
We really didn't talk about what I meant, in my opinion, is probably the most important, is to really listen to your heart. And I think that so many decisions try to be made from the head, and data and information and the opinions of others can sometimes direct us in places that are not aligned to what our heart tells us is the right thing to do. Case in point, I remember when my kids were young, and my daughter screamed throughout the night, and everybody said, "Oh, you need to let her scream. You need to let her scream through the night." And and I read the books, and one time we tried it, and I said, I can't do this. My heart says that when a baby is crying, they need something. I might not know what they need, but they need something. And for me to just let them cry was abandonment. Yeah, that's what resonated for me, is that space. So I couldn't do that. And that all the logic and the science and the data or whatever that you gave me, and I'm not judging by any means anybody that chooses to do differently. This is how Peter had to do it, and how Patty, my wife, and I chose to do it. Is we needed to do what we felt was aligned to our heart, and what felt right to us. And I think if every parent ultimately comes into making their choices and decisions in that space, not what mom thinks, not what the doctor says, not what you read in a book, not anything other than listening to that voice on the inside of you says, yeah, that's right. That's what you do. Yeah, that's what you listen to, because anytime you do that, you can never, ever be wrong.
Right. Very good. That's such a great message, because there is so much information out there, and it's very easy to get lost in all of that. It's important to gather information, but then to let it sink in and listen to your heart and allow yourself to act from there. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you for being here. I appreciate your time coming on and sharing your wisdom. I hope our paths connect very soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. J.
Hi, it's Dr. J again, and I want to thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I, as a parent, learn a ton from these experts coming on and sharing their wisdom, so I hope you're getting a lot out of it too. And I want to share something else with you. I've created a guide called the 40 Ways to Connect with Your Baby During Pregnancy. It's full of simple things you can do on a day-to-day basis that will help strengthen that bond that you have with your baby. It's a free download. You can go to my website at drjwarren.com/40ways and just enter your email. I'll send it right to you. You can download it and start working on it right away. All of the research that I'm learning in the fields of epigenetics and attachment parenting is showing that the more bonded you are during your pregnancy with your baby, the better the birth is going to go and the better parenting is going to go, because you have that strong foundation, a strong connection to build upon. So go again to my website. It's drjwarren.com/40ways and get that free guide. And again, thanks for listening.